Willows is a small little town right along the I-5 corridor in Northern California. For most people, it's a place to stop and get a quick bite to eat, grab some gas, and then continue on your way, whether you're headed north or south. But what you might not realize is just how much history is held within this town, especially as it comes to aviation. Willows is the birthplace of modern aerial firefighting. My grandfather and several other men started it basically from the ground up on this tarmac. This also served as a vital training place for one of the major operations in World War II, the Doolittle Raid. They trained on this ground right here. This is also where modern day crop dusting began, flying over and using planes for agricultural purposes, herbicides, pesticides, seeding, fertilizer, you name it. Most of that, if it didn't get its start, it sure put down its roots here in this ground. So on today's episode of Hidden Gems of Northern California, let's talk about the Willows Airport.
The history of the Willows Airport formally begins in 1928, when ground west of the city was selected to become an intermediate airfield by the U.S. Department of Commerce. However, even as far back as 1920, Willows was home to a growing aviation scene. In 1920, the Willows Korean Aviation School was founded to teach Korean Americans how to fly combat aircraft outside of Japanese influence. The school lasted only a year, but taught many pioneers of Korean aviation how to fly, and the Willows Korean Aviation School is recognized by the Republic of Korea Air Force as its predecessor. People from all over Glenn County flocked to the airport in June of 1929 to celebrate and dedicate the airport. All was not well, however. Heavy winter storms flooded the runways, and the DOC threatened to move the location of the airport entirely. Citizens of Glenn County came together to hold many fundraisers to both improve the airport as well as outright purchase it. With the help of the local American Legion Post and the Archaean Club, enough money was raised to buy the airport from the federal government. Glenn County now owned the Willows Airport. Until 1932, the airport was only open to emergency use, but after the service clubs took over, it was opened up to all aviation use. On September 9, 1933, the Willows Airport was officially dedicated. It would be a crime if I didn't mention the name of one man whose history is closely tied to the Willows Airport, as well as my own life. Floyd Nolta. Some call him the father of crop dusting, as well as the father of aerial firefighting. This man changed not just Glenn County or the Willows Airport, but the entire world. Floyd Nolta worked hand in hand with many men for the betterment of humanity, one of those men being my grandfather, Frank Asen Prentice. All of these men deserve more of a deep dive into their story than just this video, however, so I will tell those tales another time. A small, nondescript plaque is placed in their honor and memory at the airport, and should you visit, I highly recommend paying your respects to these truly great men of history. One final note on Floyd Nolta for now, however. In World War I, Mr. Nolta was serving as a mechanic in the same unit as a certain Lieutenant Colonel James Jimmy Doolittle. The two became lifelong friends, and in 1942, Lieutenant Colonel Doolittle used Willows Airport to practice short takeoffs and landings in secret in preparation for the Doolittle Raid on Japan in 1942. In 1956, Willows Airport became the base of operations for the Mendocino Air Tanker Squad. Agricultural pilots using the crop dusting technology pioneered by Floyd Nolta were trained on how to drop water and fire retardant on wildfires. This was the first real use of airplane-based firefighting and made Willows the center of it all. The U.S. Forest Service continued using the Willows Airport as their hub until 1982, when air tankers had grown large enough to need longer runways.
The two small runways of the Willows Airport and one official helipad serve as a landing strip and home and training base of operations to aerial firefighters, crop dusters, air ambulances, police, you name it. This is a nice central hub up here in Northern California that it's hard to find anywhere else. If you're traveling through Willows into spring or summer, there's a very good chance you're going to have a crop duster fly right over the top of your head, especially if you're out there on the freeway. There is no central tower here at the Willows Airport. It's all reliant on the pilots to talk to each other to coordinate their takeoff and landings. There's been more than once where I've been out here on a fire call, helping land the helicopter load the patient into the helicopter, and the helicopter and crop duster pilots have been in a sort of aircraft traffic jam, trying to make room to take off and clear the airspace. Kind of just a very unique aspect of living and working in this area. The blend of emergency services and agriculture, which kind of defines my life. This is a fairly busy airport, obviously not as busy as something from a large city, but there's constantly traffic coming in and out of here. It is quiet enough, however, that CAL FIRE will oftentimes come here to practice their night flying and their touch and goes due to the low amount of air traffic in the area around those times. The busiest times you'll see this airport here is generally in the mornings when all of our flyboy crop dusters are headed out to take care of us farmers who need a little help. Even if you're not a pilot, Willows Airport has something for you. Nancy's Cafe, located just down the road over there. Great place to stop and get a bite to eat. They often talk about it's called the $100 burger because you'll fly in to get a burger and the avgas will make the trip not entirely worth it monetarily, but with the views flying into the airport and the quality of the food here at Nancy's, it's more than worth it.
Flying into Willows Airport gives you an incredible view of the Mendocino Mountains to your west, and the Sierras to your east, and a valley floor diced neatly into agricultural fields of all types of crops below you. The Sacramento Valley is best known for its rice, but it's also a major producer of almonds, walnuts, alfalfa, corn, tomatoes, and more. If this makes you hungry, then Nancy's Cafe is a perfect place to stop, whether you're flying in or driving by. Located directly on the north side of the airport and easily accessible from Interstate 5, this traditional diner-style restaurant is decorated with hundreds of aviation-related memorabilia and historical photographs. The worn tables in this restaurant are home to travelers and locals alike, and I encourage you to stop in, order a cup of coffee, and just listen to some of the stories being swapped. At Nancy's, it's not uncommon for a farmer, a pilot, a race car driver, and a lawyer to share breakfast at the same table before heading out to work. I mentioned how delicious the burgers are at Nancy's, but really anything you order is sure to be delicious. I myself am very partial to their hash browns, which always have the perfect crispiness. While eating breakfast and filming this video, I ran into a pilot and his two young boys who had flown in just to pick up a couple of pies and then fly back home. When I asked if they had any other errands in the area to warrant the flight, he simply said that nope, the pies are just that good at Nancy's.
that nice man and his 2 kids just stopped by to grab a whole pie from Nancy's, and now they're headed back home. I love this town. But that's going to do it for this episode of Hidden Gems of Northern California. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the Northwind Aerial channel. If you have an idea of any sort of hidden gem like this you'd like for me to do a video on, please put it in the comments. I'm always looking for new places to explore. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.